So we have three speakers this morning, or this afternoon. And what I'm going to try to do is a very lively debate on how we can use data for social good. And we have three very esteemed guests here. Gregor's from Superpool, and we have Özlem from SAS, and we have Ebru from IBM. We just met, sorry. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to first let them speak for a few minutes and introduce themselves, and then I'm going to ask them a few questions. So, Gregor's, we can start with you.
Okay. Sorry, lost my voice here. So, on this not very round logo, I'm an architect. I've been here in Istanbul for the last 10 years. As you might, architects draw. We draw buildings, roads, bridges. Sometimes we draw knives and forks. But of course, we're also citizens in the city, and we think, like, let's say, we constantly question ourselves of how is this city, what is this city? So, one question I will run very quickly through here. Like, we asked ourselves, why is there not a Domus or minibus map? Or why is there not here, a bus map that would be able to get faster around in the city? For instance, is a question we asked. We asked ourselves, you can't see it probably, but is the malls, the 160 malls, is that the future of urban life in Istanbul? We also asked ourselves sometimes if we are, as architects, are planning or designing the city, how can we do that if the social infrastructure is not or still in flux, let's say, that governs the relationship between ourselves? We ask, what does it mean when Istanbul is the third largest Facebook city in the world, still today? And sometimes we ask ourselves, could Istanbul be more healthy?
Yes.
It can, and actually, I'd like to, let's say, a positive thing is that you might not imagine, but 75% of Istanbul is bikeable, let's say, at least from an inclination point of view of the roads. Do we have enough green space in the city, and is it easily accessible enough? Some would say no, but let's look at it. Water projects everywhere. This reminds me, or just a note to myself, that I need to call Vestas and say how many wind turbines have they sold in Turkey. It's coming now.
No.
Oops. Lisbon Triennial asked us, what is Gezi? And we provided a graphic for that. We also help artists. Serkan Taycan is an artist that walks on this path that could be the potential canal, and he wonders what will be left once I'm done walking here. Sometimes we wonder, I don't know if this movie will start, but let's see.
Oh, I mean, we might have movie availability, sorry.
Yeah, okay. This book we did, Mapping Istanbul, do we have the right tools really to communicate now? I mean, that bubble that is good just showed with empty air. But basically, we're interested in how do we communicate data of the city. Is data valuable? Yes. This Mapping Istanbul book was sold for 60 lira when it was just published. Now you can buy it on Amazon for $420.
Good investment.
Yes. We are asked by Columbia University to think about what is the future of cities, and we do that at Studio X. You're most welcome here. So what is the future of the city? We think there is a future that we need to find, and I think that's...
That we'll talk about, exactly.
You second, well, I just want to second that we need to find some space between city, online platforms, sharing economy that is kind of truly civic. And that's what we are about.
Great. Thank you. Thank you very much. I don't think you have a presentation. If you can turn on the mic, Özlem.
Down here?
Yeah.
Hello? Hello?
Can you tap on it? Yeah, perfect.
Okay. Hi, everyone. I'm Özlem Akpınar. I work as a business solutions manager for analytics in SAS Turkey. I've been with SAS Turkey for the past 6 years. I'm basically an industrial engineer, and I had my PhD in industrial engineering as well. SAS, I don't know if you heard of SAS, but...
How many people here know what SAS is? Let's see a raise of hands.
Not bad.
How many people know what SPSS is? Let's see the rival.
Oh.
All right.
Yeah.
Damn. SAS is actually, I think, better than
like
SPSS. No hard feelings, IBM.
SPSS is IBM.
Yeah.
I know, that's what I said.
Yeah, SAS is founded in 1976, and it started as an agricultural project funded by NSF with North Carolina University. And then in a couple of years, it got so big that it had to be taken out of the university and become an entity by itself. And the starting professor was Jim Goodnight. He is still our CEO. And we are the biggest privately owned business analytics company. Although we mostly work in analytics, we also have footprints in data management, risk, fraud, and we work with customer intelligence clients as well.
Great. Thank you, Özlem. Ebru?
Hello, it's Ebru. I am from IBM. How many of you knows about IBM?
Exactly.
Yes, but IBM changed a lot. I mean, actually, I'm working as a Client Innovation Center Manager in IBM. And I am working in IBM for 20 years, but in consulting, transformational consulting area for 25 years, let's say. And I am now responsible from ecosystem development around the new digital strategy of IBM. Because we all know IBM, because we were having ThinkPads, and we were having nice IBM big boxes, and from some movies. But now IBM, I mean, for the last decade, changed a lot. And digital transformation was the main driver for us. And now how we are defining ourselves, IBM is an industry, cloud, and cognitive company, which means that out of these digital technologies, or digital wind, let's say, there is a huge data. Huge data. So how we are going to host those data? So we need a cloud platform, because nobody can invest one by one to those platforms, to those data centers. And later on, a second question, you have all those data, and what are you going to do with all those data? You need to predict something, you need to create something, you need to turn this data into a real asset. So you need cognitive. That's why IBM tells data, yes, it's very critical, so I need cloud as a platform, and I need cognitive to really get the best use of this data. And a third dimension, like we talked about T-shaped people, and we talked about different requirements in different industries, and we need to create different data scientist point of view for different industries. So industry is important. So when we are going to talk today about social impact, I will refer to new IBM strategy with cloud, cognitive, and focus on industries.
Thank you. Thank you. In fact, when in 2007, the educational part of data analytics, I was kind of awakened to by the SAS initiative. But the industry, I was a business professor, and the industry part of the industry importance of data science, I was actually awakened by IBM. In a span of a year, IBM purchased SPSS, Cognos, and iLog. Yeah. So if you're familiar with the data analytics chart, you have the descriptive analytics, then you have the prescriptive analytics, then you have the predictive analytics. Actually, descriptive, predictive, and prescriptive. And Cognos is a BI software for descriptive analytics. SPSS is there for predictive part, and for prescriptive part, you have iLog, Cplex. So when IBM bought those three companies one after the other, and SAS opened up the institute, I said, this is gonna blow our minds. This is getting big. So I think really, really cool companies. What I want to start our discussion with is, I know your companies are doing some social good stuff, and can you tell us a little bit about, maybe we can start with IBM's Social Good Fellowship. Can you tell us a little bit about that? And if it has any Turkish extensions?
Yes. Yes. So, yes, the data is our business, so is the main of our strategy. But we realize that we need to create a sustainable world economy, a sustainable environment, and a good citizen environment in order to ensure also our business continuity. in order to extend our markets. This is the main reason, actually. Companies like IBM investing so much on social good. Why? Because we need to create a sustainable business model. And to create that sustainable business model, we need to invest in environment, we need to invest in women workforce, we need to invest in education, in healthcare. As much as we invest in those items, so we can make sure that IBM grows its business. We can grow ourselves both in terms of the skills that we can get to IBM, recruit to IBM, but also in terms of the market, people that we are going to sell. Companies that we are going to sell may find new skills in the market. So this is the main reason. At the end of today, we have some objectives to extend our business, to extend our market. And we have good skills. We are having good tools, as you said. We are having the market leaders like Cognos, SPSS, good tools that everybody in data science area, in data area knows about them. We have good skills. We have research centers all over the world, and in those research centers, we are mainly working on the prescriptive part of it. So we understand the data, we work on prediction of it, and we are now trying with the cognitive business change the way the things are done. So IBM wants to turn it into the social benefit. We launched a new program, and this is actually like you showed in Data Wine, isn't it? It's a Data for Social Good program, and the idea is that IBM fellows are working in research centers focusing on different social issues, social problems, like in healthcare, in education, or I can give you examples later on. And any volunteers can apply for those projects, and then they can create, in a defined project plan, a change program, a digital change program that can have direct research.
And when you say any volunteers, I'm going to interrupt you. Maybe there might be volunteers here. So what are the basic qualifications to be a volunteer?
Yeah,
because I'm sure they don't just pick up anybody off the street.
Sure, you are of course sharing your CV with those
But is it a global application process, or is it just US based?
Currently, it started with US,
okay.
But it will extend. It was just started with main research centers, but from different countries like Turkey, if there are some CVs that are coming to us, we are also sharing with research centers to include them. But it is not currently launched program directly to global. Another thing that we are doing, it's open to everybody, I said, to market. For IBM employees, we also have another program. This is also Data for Social Good program, and we as employees are working in a defined time frame in different social projects around data and delivering those projects.
Yeah. Great.
I mean, in 2 months, I will go to China for a healthcare project, which is also related to data.
Right.
So this is also adding a lot of value, both for us to know about how to use data for social good, and also to the society to add benefit.
And I think, Özlem, you guys have a similar program to Data for Good. And in fact, I saw that there's an app too, Gather IQ. Can you talk a little bit about those?
We have recently launched that application. You can download it. You can think of that application as a crowdsourcing of data and volunteers, analyst volunteers. We currently have 2 projects going on in Gather IQ. The first one is the Missing Migrants project, and the second one is related with the earthquake at Nepal. So what happens is we have all the data uploaded in our servers around these projects. So you can go into the application and you can just do some analysis on the migrant data, for example. And then you can come up with the paths the migrants are taking. You can create some insights, what the kind of problems they're facing. And you can share this insights through social media, or you can comment on the other insights that are created by other analysts. That's going very well, actually. And we have a couple of other initiatives as well that I want to talk about. The second one is around human trafficking. So this is basically started with the US, and we are working with Peacework. So this is an organization with a lot of, again, volunteers and data scientists as well.
Do you know what kind of data there is? Like, how do you look at human trafficking through data?
There is a center that is basically collecting data on human trafficking. This can be people coming from Mexico to the US. So as I said, this is more like a US-based program.
But how do you collect? Do you have any idea how do they collect the data?
I don't know.
Okay, all right.
I'm sorry. So what happens is these statisticians in this program are trying to find the factors that are influencing, that are correlating with the human trafficking. So it turns out that the degree of slavery in the 1800s had a huge impact on the human trafficking, or like poverty or like foreclosures in that area are very correlated with human trafficking as well. So at the end of the project, the team delivered a number of areas that the law enforcement officers has to focus on, and turns out that some of these areas are the ones that the officers had no idea about. Yeah. So that was one area, and one thing that we're also working on is on healthcare, of course. This initiative is called the Data Sphere. It's this time a crowdsourcing of all the clinical data, clinical trial data from all the pharmaceutical companies. And the initial project is around finding whether the cancer treatment is working right through the treatment, not waiting for a couple of months after you receive the treatment. And the last one I want to talk about is the Data Dive. This is sponsored by DataKind and SAS. So we have recently done a gathering in the SAS headquarters in Cary, North Carolina. So what happened is we had around 100 volunteers, data analysts in the headquarters. There were various nonprofit organizations. They came and they presented their projects, their challenges. And the volunteers picked up some projects to work on, and at the end of the weekend, they come up with some solutions to the problems. Yeah. So I think that's going to go further.
Gregor, your company is a bit different because these guys were actually sitting on data, and then they are like, okay, let's bring social responsibility into this, partly because the business needs to stay sustainable, but yours is a bit different, I think. Did you start out with data right away, or did you actually start with the social part of the project first, and how is the two married now?
I mean, I think we are, as I said, we are architects, and our main concern is the city. Yeah. I mean, in this context, right, that we want to figure out how to make the city more livable. Yeah. And for us, that whenever we encounter a problem, then we say, okay, there is an issue here. What kind of data can we gather? And obviously, let's say over the last 10 years, it was not always easy to gather data, right? So obviously, that's got a lot easier. But yeah, as I said, let's say it's more focused about our activity in the city.
Does your team have data analysts, data scientists right now?
Not at the moment, but it goes per project, let's say. So when we do projects, I think I briefly showed here both for Audi and also for MoMA, we have looked at, let's say, different way of let's say, finding data that is not there, like how are the indicators when we try to figure out how are people moving around the city. So we do have, let's say, on project-specific employees on that. Yeah.
And how available is the data? Because I think when you talk about data for social good, you're talking about social-related data and how easy it is to get to, especially city-level data.
Yeah, so you can actually write the lecture to the city and ask for specific data.
I know about those.
I guess you all know. It's news to us. But some in the early projects, for instance, the Domus and minibus, the data collection happened by taking the minibus. Right?
Oh, you actually were. Right. But did you have a phone or something on, or did you actually write down the data?
We wrote it down. We drew on our maps. Right? That's right. Because we're still very old school. We're architects in that sense. We draw. Right? Yeah. But obviously today, and I think it's already been incorporated in, I think there's a City Mapper app where they also have incorporated the minibus and Domus into that. But I know from being able to do that, they still actually took the buses. Of course, the city has the whole thing, TSB, like on what do you call it, GPS
exactly.
data, but they're not sharing, right?
Yeah.
So, but talking about sharing, so we actually, through some of these projects, now we're working with IBB to create some spaces for sharing data. We'll see how that goes.
Yeah, I'm curious, can you talk a little bit about that?
So there's two initiatives. One is called a data lab or open data lab, which will start as a IBB's own in-house training center to work with open data. And then slowly they will invite, let's say, the public into the public. The other one is called the Living Lab, which will be more a public phase of the municipality.
There's one in Başakşehir, I think, right?
Yes, and we're at the moment working on moving those into the center because Başakşehir is a little bit far away. So we're working in two spaces in the metro system, actually, in the city. So that will be other platforms for sharing data.
I think this data, open data issue is really big, and you guys are really sitting on data, I think. So what is SaaS's and IBM's perspective on making data available to people who want to work on it? Because like crowdsourcing is a big thing. Also, just putting the bright minds from wherever from the world is really big. I mean, it's nice. Kerry is a very nice place, but I don't think they would want to fly everybody who wants to work on data to Kerry. So what do you think?
I mean, we're going to see a lot of cloud things happening in the future. I mean, like you said, cloud is going to be the future. So I'm thinking of crowdsourcing the data on the cloud, and then basically having the data scientists' applications on the cloud so that the analysts can just log in anywhere, anytime they like, and then do their analysis and then share on any platform that they like.
For us, this is the biggest issue, managing the data in silos. For example, when we are talking about smarter cities, as much as you have the integrated data, you can go to the right results because you can make a relation in terms of the events, in terms of everything, and even you can prevent things, emergency management, for example, but we cannot because everybody wants to keep their own data. So when we are coming to the change in the professions, data scientists, etc., this requires also a huge cultural change in overall digital business management model. So you cannot keep, yes, of course data is an asset, but it can only be valuable as much as you share it. Otherwise, it doesn't make any sense. I mean, there are a lot of data in everywhere, and if you want to analyze anything, you can reach out, but they want to keep it separate and no correlation between them. This eliminates us to also work effectively in social issues, especially in social issues. Another item is that IBM is lucky because we are in agreement with different social media partners like Twitter. We can make sentimental analysis or we can make some analysis of the news that people are sharing. And this is a very live data. And this can give you a good guidance on if you are changing a bus route, for example. You can just learn like this how many people is affected and how much business will be affected out of it. So those kind of things help us, of course, but this cultural change of data management and this digitalization requirements is essential for us too.
Yeah, I mean, I have a feeling that the data ownership is going to be a big issue, but since the current owners of data are very unlikely to open up the data anytime soon, because I have had this talk with one municipality, I won't name which municipality, and the guy flat out said, we will not share any data with anyone. And I'm like, why? He's like, oh, cybersecurity. I'm like, okay. But so how can we grow new platforms for data sharing? Do you guys have any ideas on that?
As I said, actually, we need to arrange new business models. It's about changing, for example, Uber. It's all the platform is there. It needs to have a high security, yes, but it's totally different business model. So if we are doing the same things through the same processes, only with digitalization or automation, this will not work. The thing is we need to make sure that people should understand through the value chain of their business, what is flowing is not goods, are the data. So the real value is about the data that flows, you know, from to the customer. It's not about, you know, the electronic machine or whatever you are producing in your factories. So this is the essential cultural change, and it needs to have a change culturally top and down and bottom up. Of course, data scientists give us, with the new education and with the new approach, will open the mind of the new skills. So we are expecting, we are having high expectation from the new generation, because they will, you know, bring some new ideas. But also, as a leadership, we need leaders to invest more on this understanding data and how we can make the world digital to create value.
Yeah. How about SaaS? Like, what is their take on this data openness, and are there any platforms?
I think the most important thing there is if you can share the value you get out of the data, I think people will be more inclined to share whatever data they have. I see that data sharing is an important issue, like you guys said. But I mean, it has to. I mean, we have to start changing our mindsets about this. And as long as we start, like I said, showing the value, I think things will start to change.
Yeah. And like, I don't know if you know Move It. You know, there's. I mean, do you guys think of any apps like that in Istanbul where we can get more crowdsourced data? Or I saw a smile there, so I'm sure there's a story with that smile.
No, I mean, we have. I mean, we speculate, right? Since we don't have the data, we speculate on what data could really do, which puts me again in the kind of this bubble of you showed earlier, but where we just communicate data. But so I think we need definitely to be in touch with you guys, right? But
in fact, IBM, I think, has a lot of smart city initiatives, so that might be a good match there.
I mean, we have worked on an idea for. Actually, again, Başakşehir here, but how we can, let's say, provide a more sustainable form of living in many of these compounds, where, let's say, compared to the older Istanbul city, where the level of informality or self-management is very high, suddenly we, in the periphery, move to the complete opposite model, where there is an extreme degree of control in these environments. You cannot plant a tomato, right? It's kind of. And I think, or let's say our hope or our proposal, or let's say our dream, is that we could actually create some kind of platform that can both facilitate growth, like sustainable growth for the people, for the families that live in these areas. Because they're a little bit, I mean, we let's say when we look in a city, we believe we're a little bit disenfranchised when you're on the periphery. You don't work there, you just commute back and forth. But these areas need to become
bigger part of the city.
They need to become city themselves. So I think there is a room for platforms or data to, let's say, look at those situations and see what kind of new, let's say, non-Uber models can we find.
I have one more question to ask, but we have a lot of time in my mind, so I'm going to crowdsource a few questions. So if you have a couple of questions for our brilliant panelists, I'd love to hear that questions on the intersection of data analytics and social impact, social good. And if you want, I'll pass the microphone on whoever wants to.
Can I share something?
Of course, yeah.
As IBM, we have a big data university. If you search like Big Data University, and if you enter, you can have the trial of all the products, and there are also some data set that you can work on it. So it's a good environment, and there's also developer works. If you also search developer works, you can also reach out. This is open to all developers. This is open to all data scientists, and you can take training out of it. And for universities, academicians, and students, if you enter on the hub/IBM, you can reach, as students and academicians, all IBM products, services in cognitive and analytics areas. And as Innovation Center Manager, my mission is to extend our ecosystem. So we are hosting, you know, the meetups, different developer communities. Our door is open to everyone, and you have our numbers, my contact through LinkedIn as well. So please reach out and you know, we are working with different NGOs, and if you have any idea to a social problem that we can work together to solve, we are willing to evaluate that for Turkey specifically.
After the last question, I'll give you more chances to plug. And if you have any questions, yes, let's pass. If you can come up and I'll give you the microphone. It's okay. I'll just jump.
Thank you for your presentation, for all of you. My question is for Mr. Architect. I'm an architect as well, by the way. And I want to understand, have you established or finished any, or accomplished any model on the city in Istanbul? Have you developed anything that actually solved a problem? Or I'm interested to know how data can solve it.
Maybe you can pass it to the next person.
Yeah, so in a way that comes down to a professional question, right? Is that I think as an architect that we have boundaries to some degree due to our skills, right? So as again, as a profession we're trained as to visualize the future of what the building could look like, right? And similarly we are visualizing what we think could be a future for a city, for a country, for a building. But it also means that we never follow through that, right? We don't, even when we draw a building, we don't go and hammer in the nails ourselves, right? So, I mean, that can be the pitfall of our profession, right? We don't go and code ourselves how to do the plumbing system, right? Hopefully we can find the right partners to do these things, right? So that's where we are looking for partners to figure out how we can put some of these ideas into use. But we also see our role sometimes just to ask the questions and not necessarily to
answer them.
Hands-on or do the troubleshooting. I think other better people can do that and actually bring the real solutions to place.
I think he has a follow-up.
I understand from you. I just want to give a reply on this. Last week, by chance, I was in a meeting with one professional in Boğaziçi University regarding solving the Dolmuş issue, especially in Istanbul. So they are trying to create a alliance that is data-driven. So how the people are moving from their houses to metro lines, especially. So they are taking 2 points as the home and the metro. And they are trying to regenerate the bus route regarding this. So it might be, I will talk
I think you should put those representatives in contact with Gregor.
It might be useful to use your data for their actual project because they are doing
this is all about connections. So the more connections this meeting makes, the better it is. Let's take one more question, then I'll go to my last question of, we have somebody here.
Thank you very much for the presentations. I will ask 2 questions to Özlem Hanım and Ebru Hanım. By the way, I'm an SPSS user.
Then Özlem won't answer your questions now.
So I have some concerns about those social good fellowship program-like units. Can you explain a bit more about your team working on that departments, for instance? Is there any social scientists in the teams? It was my first question. And the second one is, okay, we know we collect data about immigrants or maybe about women empowerment level in each country, but do your companies also involve in the process of policy making or the advocacy processes? So if you have some, can you mention about those processes as well? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Actually, at the beginning, at the our keynote speaker told about this data, design, and digital. So the social, you said social scientists. Social scientist is the design part of it, and it's very critical for us. Me, myself, I'm a sociologist, and I'm an organizational science PhD. So, and I'm working for 20 years in IBM. So you see, so all business transformations, we think that design is critical, and in order to have that, you have to have social capabilities, social design people. When we are working in those kind of projects, for example, we did one in Turkey actually. It is for the the migration, for the migration problem. We worked with Assam, and we analyzed the data of the migration from Syria and what are the issues that those people are missing. Because even, finding out who are those people, what are their qualifications was an issue. So when doing that project, IBM is lucky because we have also a global business consultancy department. And this consultancy department have both industry and practice knowledge. In each of those projects, we are involving someone having capability from our SME, because we are the analytics around where are the SMEs in different parts of the world. We are getting guidance from them in order to also give meaning to data. And in order also, for example, we are using business governance experts in order to shape the data governance model. Because you can do data analytics, you can analyze and understand data once, but governance is the main issue. You cannot, replicate that again and again. For example, there is also, and in different projects, as I told, we are also working as volunteer, as a part of the corporate social responsibility as IBMers, and they are looking to our experience in different industries, in different areas. If there are projects that we did in agriculture, they are sending us to Kenya to do that project. I am going, because I have experience in healthcare area for a transformation project, I will go to China for that project. So we are shaping, and because design is very important, we are using a designer, we are using a business and industry expert, and also, of course, technical expertise, data expertise. Yeah. So this is the model how we manage.
Thank you.
So I have to admit at this stage, most of the things that are happening are in the US, in SAS headquarters. We have a very big, professional services team. You can think of them as global consultants. And they're doing projects around social issues, like I mentioned before. There are some other projects that they are doing, they're working with wildlife conservation companies, and they're trying to track the endangered species and then trying to find how they can solve, how they can help them not to go extinct. And we also have another project around Zika virus, probably about Zika virus. So we are basically analyzing the spread patterns of the virus, and our objective is to find the next outbreak before it happens. So there are a lot of things coming along, and SAS is always providing the software at no cost and the platform at no cost. So we can just dump the data in there and then work with our consultants on the data.
Great. So I'm going to end with one final question to all of us. The question I want to ask is, so we want data to improve our lives from a social perspective. And if you... Let's be utopic, let's play Pollyanna, let's be optimists. What is one major social project you would hope that data will solve us in the future? In fact, to let you think a little bit, I'm going to give my answer first. Before the conference, Giuseppe and I were talking about different companies, and he mentioned this one company that looks into food waste, and I thought it's brilliant. I recently heard this figure that in England, in the UK, every day 1.5 million bananas are thrown away. When I first read it, I'm like, this is nonsense. It was coming from Guardian, so it was like a very reliable source, and when I dug a little further, I found out that in the US, 40% of the food is thrown to waste. Food waste is a huge problem. And when you consider how much of the world is starving every day, it's even more mind-boggling. So I'm hoping that using data, and in fact, there's one company apparently trying to do something about this, using data, we can find ways to waste food less. And I'm going to open up a parenthesis and say, in Turkish, ek bayatek mekleri zatmayın. Yiyin arkadaşlar. Now I'm going to pass it down to you guys. Who wants to take the first shot?
Okay. So I think, I mean, we also have a saying in Turkey around health, you know. So I think healthcare, any study around healthcare is very important. I think for me that's the first area that comes to my mind.
This Zika one, do you know how far are they in the study? The Zika virus study that you were talking about?
I think they have gathered the data and they started the analysis, but I don't know.
Okay.
Sorry. So with the healthcare, we're also talking about big data with the healthcare because we have millions or maybe billions of patient records coming in. So if we can host a platform that collects all these patient records so that you can find a treatment before it's too late, I think it's very important. Or the virus thing is another thing that's very important. Anything around healthcare, I think, is very key. I was also thinking of the operational systems of the hospitals, like how many nurses you're going to need, how many doctors you're going to need, how you're going to schedule them. So anything that you can provide around healthcare, I think it's very important.
Great. Ebru?
Yes, healthcare is very important. By the way, we are doing it with Watson for skin cancer, and it's a good progress to predict how to choose the right treatments.
Yeah, in
fact,
I heard that Watson has this capability where it goes through the newly published cancer papers every day, and it creates a little summary of all the papers and all their results. So if you're a cancer related researcher or an oncologist, you can actually gather what's being gathered so far really easily. Yeah,
wherever you are in the world, you can put because there's also image recognition system, and through those images, it can make the, it can understand the issue, and put the treatment in place, which is very, very, it makes us optimistic about the future, of course. What I will say, because you said we can be utopic.
Exactly, be utopic, exactly.
Now we are doing with data in Twitter, in other areas, some sentimental analysis to better understand what the people just in front of us thinks about the current situation, what are the real sentiments. I would like to do that in an online, real-time manner when we are talking to each other, even. And it's easy to collect that data, actually, because you can record the voice with the voice recognition system, etc. But because I think the most important problem in our society is empathy, lack of empathy.
And when you're texting, it's very hard to empathize because somebody might have written something with the best intentions or with the worst intentions.
Yes.
Depending on your mood, you read it very differently.
Yeah, that's why you need voice recognition, because data is not only the data. The data is the face recognition, data is the image, data is the video, data is everything and everywhere. So if we can use them all to understand each other, at least, this can change a lot.
That's great. Thanks, Ebru. Super.
Okay, I think my wish would be very short. I think we just need a data wiki.
That's a good one. Actually, I know several people in the US are trying to work on that. Like, there are small ones, but they always, there is always a catch. Like, there's a free part, but then if you want anything more.
But, if we are dependent on data on everything we do in the future, then it should be accessible to everyone.
No, Data Wiki is a great idea, and I'd like to thank all of our panelists for their wonderful discussion. And I think we have a nice break of, we're a bit early. Do you want to take, if there are any more questions, we can take a few more questions. If not, we have a question here.
Thank you very much. And the question, I had another question, but this I believe is more important. We talked about data scientists and data engineers, and there was single mention of Watson. How does the AI fit into the whole picture? We have a big chunk of data here, and we need to make some sense out of it. Okay, we have people, very capable people, whose basically our requirement as business people from them is to, make some meaning out of this and show us the way of future. But how does AI fit into this? And in a world of more accessible or cheaper or wider spread AI, how does this put data people in?
Yeah, no, I agree.
What's the role of the data people in that?
So is the question, once AI becomes more prevalent, what will happen to the data people? Is that the question?
Also, what's the role of AI
in the soul? Okay, all right.
There was only one mention of AI.
All right, all right.
That's not fine.
And we're starting to do a lot of investments in the AI industry, in SaaS. My personal point is AI is important, but I think people are never going to be irrelevant. So we're always going to need people. And at least to direct the AI, we are going to need people and to make them to learn the initial stuff. So that's my opinion on AI. Yes.
Ebru, what do you think?
For AI, for augmented, we are calling it not artificial, even augmented intelligence, because as Özlem said, it's an adding value to man mind. You need to have 360 view of the whole data required in order to get an idea about the situation. So it's not one-sided, one pool of data that we are talking about, but the whole round of data. And this whole round of data with trends and action. So we need data analyst people, data engineer people, a data governance model in order to understand the whole what's going on. Even when we are talking about this Watson, the cancer, the skin cancer issue, we are currently even giving, for example, 99%, 98%, there is still 1% that can depend to other factors. So the 360% data is very critical, and data scientists that will give this meaning to data, that will set the rules to give the meaning to data is very, very important. And as I said, we are saying not artificial intelligence because we really don't believe to AI. We really believe on augmented intelligence that will help us. And in everywhere we are using it, even in education, but we need teachers. But education, artificial intelligence can help to customize and personalize the education system, but we will always need the teacher, the touching points. So this is currently our strategy. I don't know in the future what will happen. Maybe instead of me, a robot will be talking to you. So I'm not sure currently with my...
Gregory, do you want to add anything? Let me say a few things. First of all, AI will not really work unless you have tons and tons of data, right? Because it can't do anything without it. So, yeah, that's exactly, yeah. If you have a lot of data, that's good. And the other thing is AI can do some things, but like you said, it's more augmentation at this point, at least for the next 5, 10, maybe 20 years. Who knows what's going to happen next, but I want to give you, I don't know if you know, Google at some point 6, 7 years ago tried to predict flu epidemics in the US. Do you know about this story? Google had a website called Google.org, and there they claimed, they actually not claimed, they proven to CDC, Center for Disease Control in the US, that they could predict flu epidemics in the US before the epidemics hit the hospitals. How? Because when you catch the flu, do you go to the hospital right away? No, you search. You say, I have a headache, I have a fever, this and that, and by looking at how prevalent those searches were, Google was able to identify what the epidemic was like, but then after 2 years of successfully running the algorithm, the third year, they had a major problem, because what happened is college basketball was also very prevalent in some places where flu was very prevalent. So to the computer, there was no difference between those two terms. They were both searched very highly when there's a flu epidemic, so they were indicator of a flu. In fact, college basketball meant something very different. So unless we have enough data and unless we have somebody supervising the models that are created now, it's going to be hard for AI to completely muscle its way in. But my, again, utopic hope is that in 50 years, AI will do all the work, we'll have a universal income, and we'll do arts, music, sports.
May I check just one article I read recently? It's written by Andrew Moore in Georgia Tech. He makes a very conservative assumption about the number of smart devices by the year 2025. Not really 20 billion or 50 billion as some popularly predicted. And he just makes a very simple analytics. Assumption is true, 15 billion smart devices. What's inside? artificial intelligence, data analytics, chaos mathematics, prediction, statistics, and this and that. And then he predicts by the year 2025 what will be the demand for mathematics and algorithms, and who will supply this demand in the world by the year 2025. It's very interesting. It distributes into different countries with different capabilities. And I think for every decision maker, it's a must read.
Do we have any other questions? Yeah, we have one here.
My curiosity is about quantum computing, how it's going to affect the whole data science area. I know the IBM opens also quantum computers on cloud.
Quantum computing, I've read one, like 2 pages article on it, so I can't speak on it at all.
Yeah.
But if you need quantum computing. I think, yeah, if there's anybody in the room who wants to talk about quantum computing briefly, that would be great. Thank you, Giuseppe.
Well, I'm advancing myself, so let me introduce myself one moment. I'm Giuseppe Curto, and I will be leading the case in just a few minutes. So we are living in really an amazing situation where we are combining from one side software and algorithms, and from the other side, the whole revolution is based on quantum computing. So let's put it this way. Well, do you know what it is? Probably not. Let's just summary a little bit. Nowadays, our computers are just based on zeros and ones. You know, we switch off and switch on the lights. That's all. You know, so at the end, we are just using this binary system. Okay? What if we can go beyond? What if instead of having just 2 states, we have 3? You know, can you imagine having 3? It would be awesome, because the power, you know, the amount of operations that we can do, it will increase. But come on, just 3? Let's jump to 4, to 5, to 6. So what is happening is not one company, but many of them, they are betting on this. Because one of the limitations of our algorithms is the amount of operations that we can do with the processors. So, and the good part, because I study mathematics, is that all the theory behind quantum computing, it's already made. We have the algebra behind. What is behind the algebra that our computers is using is already made. So it's the same thing. We already have the algebra, but what we are lagging behind is transforming all our algorithms into this new algebra. So what is happening right now, for example, IBM, what they did is to, you know, they open this initiative where they have 5 qubits quantum computing to all researchers. Because what they want for them is like, come on, are you able to recreate all those algorithms to analyze, you know, customer data, to analyze social movements, to analyze product transactions into this new world where everything will be faster? And well, we can we imagine a future where we will have computing at the speed of thought? So this is what quantum computing will be in the future. So it's not just at IBM, there are other companies that are betting on that. And it takes steps. You know, we are in, this is baby steps right now, but we will come.
Great, thank you. Anybody else? Well, we have time for one more question. I heard that if you wait 15 seconds, the question will pop up. I know, we all do. That's why I think if no one has questions, I'm going to end it by wishing that there is a data wiki and everybody opens up. Oh, there's actually a question. Perfect. Or me a wish. Who knows? Great.
You know, in 2014, there was a TED talk that was found very interesting about GDP calculation, and how GDP calculation, as we have come to know, is so old school, and it's not really neither descriptive nor predictive nor prescriptive of the problems of the globe as we know it. So how do you see countries using data, let's say, in a smarter and more sustainable fashion? And how do you see these indices of economic, maybe I can just throw it out there, I know. I don't know if there's
an answer. It's a big question.
Yeah, it's a big question.
I think we'll discuss it during the break,
yeah,
unless
maybe.
you have very good answers.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much for your time, everyone. We're going to take a 20-minute break, and we'll be back here at 4 o'clock. And thank you, our panelists.